Hey you guys, what's up? Welcome back and happy Friday. I have my delish iced coffee. I shared with you guys how I make this on Instagram today, I want to say. Yeah. I also am in love with my makeup. I use a lot of like cult classic favorites of mine. So of course my makeup will be linked down below, and then I get a lot of questions on what I wear. This shirt is from Zara in store. $22, so not bad at all. Also, I'm a little bit more organized these days. I just purchased this little cute Hello Kitty notebook. It's not that little, it's I want to say somewhat of the standard size. It says dream it, believe it, achieve it, and live it. So I purchased this from Amazon, but it's the Erin Condren brand. I think that's how you say her name. She has a few different cute Hello Kitty styles. They collaborated with Hello Kitty, so I'm like, yes, win. So if you guys just want one for yourself, I'll have it linked down below, and it's just a regular college ruled notebook, and they have a few other options, but I'll leave it linked. Anyways. Okay, so for today's video, I figured I would share with you guys something newish that I randomly just decided to do. So for today, I'm going to share with you guys my 10 least favorite eyeshadow palettes that Sephora is currently selling at the moment. If you are a creator and want to make this style video as well, definitely don't forget to tag me. But even if you don't make videos, well, tag me on Instagram and YouTube if you make videos, right? But even if you don't make videos, I would love to hear your feedback on this one. I figured I would start off on a negative note, just because, but I definitely want to do my top 10 favorite palettes that Sephora sells as well. I wrote some notes here, so I basically wanted to start off by saying, one second. Yeah, so I've tried many palettes, and so here are the few that I would not recommend. Honestly, even if it's on sale, unless it's like $1, then fine, maybe, or 10, maybe. But like more than that, you know, I know everyone's taste is different too. So like what I might like, you might not, and what you might like, I might not. So I mean, take this lightly. This is just my experience based on using these palettes numerous amounts of times. I will also say something that I did notice. There were actually a decent amount of palettes that were not listed as limited edition, but for some reason they're not on Sephora sites. So it's just something to keep in mind, just because I feel like, you know, there are times that brands will release something, they'll kind of keep it out, and then depending on if people love it and if it sells enough, they'll keep it around, and if not, then there's really just no point, because there's no point, you know? I'm sure you can understand why. The way I determine if an eyeshadow palette is good is by 5 of these main points. For me, it's the selection of colors. I want to know typically with a palette that I can do at least 3 or more looks that look somewhat significantly different. Now, if it is a monochromatic palette, that's okay too. And usually with those, you could still make different looks that are in the same family. Next is blendability. Is it a palette that I could use 1, 2, 3 style? Is it a palette that I have to sit there and actually blend? Does it take forever? Does it build up? Like, how does it actually perform? And then I guess that falls into the category of if the shadow is smooth, if it has like a thicker feel, if it's chalky, if it looks vibrant and pretty on the eyes. Longevity, how long the eyeshadow lasts without creasing, without looking kind of like muddy and dirty. And then sometimes I'll also judge a palette, I guess I could say, based on how much fallout there is. But with that one, I'm very lenient. I got a scratch here. Ooh! Oh my goodness, like right in the middle of my finger, it kills. Okay, so what was that one? Yeah, fallout. So a lot of times when shadows are ultra soft, I know they'll have a decent amount of fallout. So with that one, I'm a little bit more lenient, because sometimes you can have a palette that has a ton of fallout, but it's like the shadow is next level energy. And for the brand that I could think of with that falls into that category is Liora Cosmetics. I know they have super smooth shadows, but a lot of times they'll have a lot of fallout, but the palettes create stunning looks. So anyways, that's what I wanted to start off with. Now let's get started with the 10 eyeshadow palettes that I would definitely not recommend from Sephora. Okay, so first up we have the Tarte Tartlet Juicy Amazonian Clay Palette. This only has 20 reviews on Sephora site, and it's at a 4-star. $42, and this is their newest tartlet palette to their collection. It basically includes 12 rosy, bronze, and neutral tones for the lids and the crease. I was ultra excited about this one, probably more excited than I needed to be, because the color story of this really just stole my heart. And I remember when I posted it on my community tab, a lot of you guys were like, okay, whoa. Like, I know that this is a good color story for a ton of different skin tones, so I was ultra excited. When I received it, I was just kind of surprised and like shocked. And by the way, most of these palettes I've actually decluttered, so I don't actually have them to show you guys. That's why I'm just throwing up a pic. But yeah, so when I got them, So when I got this palette, I was like, what is up, you know? Because I know that there are other Tartelett palettes were pretty good. I've enjoyed most of them. I think I even still have one or two. And I was kind of, I guess, expecting it to be the same. The mattes were really not that buildable. There were a lot of lighter tone shades that really looked the same on the eye, and that's also one thing that I feel like brands need to kind of stop doing, because like we don't need two shades that literally look identical that are our hair different. It just, to me, doesn't make any sense. Like, I want more variety, you know? So yeah, the mattes were just not, I was not having it with that. I did like that they included a deep brown because you were really able to build up a lot with that one. So it was kind of, it saved the palette a bit, but still with like the whole rosy vibe, I felt like they could have included more rose matte tones to really achieve certain rosy looks, you know? And then with the metallics, oh my goodness, these were so beyond light in tone that they barely showed up on the eye. You had to build up to such an extreme. Now I know I like to go somewhat pretty heavy-handed with my look, so hear me out on this one. They were very lackluster. There was barely any shine to them, and they didn't adhere well to the eye. I've tried them in tons of different ways. When I did get a look that I was okay with, even then, like it didn't look hot on the eyes. Like, you would not ask me, hey, what shadow are you wearing? You'd kind of be like, yo, did you blend out your shadows well? Or like, what's up? But little do you know, I was sitting there for a while building. Even if you are into like lighter looks, I feel like there are other palettes out there that have that rosy tone to them. I can't think of anything offhand now. Okay, they're using the saw right now outside. But I feel like you'd be able to be more diverse with those palettes than with this one. There's no diversity. So that was my first fail. Next, we have this palette here from Artist Couture. This is the Supreme Bronze Eyeshadow Palette, retailing for $45. 13 reviews on Sephora said, and it's pretty much at a 5-star. So this might be a very unpopular opinion, but it was just my experience with this palette. I felt like, please stop using the saw. You know, a lot of you guys always tell me you love my reaction when I get annoyed when it's like noisy outside, but like, can I just have a minute, please? For me personally, the mattes were ultra dry, and when matte shadows are very dry, it's very hard to blend out. There's no like smoothness, there really isn't much blendability. So the color selection was pretty good. I did like the colors, that's why I purchased it. And I did like that there was a black, but that was pure, oh my gosh, to work with. Like, it was gonna be a no-go. So really not easy. And I know blacks are not easy to do to begin with, but that, like, because it was so dry and because it was black, I was not having it with that one. So yeah, for the mattes, super dry. They were not blending for anything. And if they were, it looked extremely like dry and patchy on the eye, and it looks like I didn't blend well. Then the metallics, they were nice, not as bad as the Tarte palette metallics, but they were very thick in consistency. And I mention this a lot because a lot of times if a metallic shadow is very, very thick, it looks like you're putting 13 layers on your eye, even if you just put one. And you can see it's like grasping onto the eye, and it's emphasizing everything like you have there. You know what I'm saying? That you didn't even think was there. So for those reasons, this felt very short for me, and it was not a pleasant palette to use. So therefore it was a fail as well. Next palette that we have up is from Melt Cosmetics. By the way, if I have lipstick on my teeth, I'm not responsible. Millennial Pink's eyeshadow palette retails for $58, but it's actually been on sale for a bit now. It is $40 in the sale section of Sephora's site, and it's still available if you're interested. So this right here, what it says about this one, it's an eyeshadow palette with a refreshing combination of pinks and modern grays. Okay, so what I thought about this one, firstly with Melt palettes, I did want to collect all of them just because I wanted to just have them, but I think that I did declutter this one if I'm not mistaken. Every time I used it, it was just, imagine I still have it. Maybe I do, but I don't really use it. Anyways, with this, firstly, I mentioned this in a few videos when I used to speak about this, there's no contrast between both of the shades, like pinks and then deeper tones. I just felt like it looked like a huge mess. Maybe I didn't know how to like work the shades together. I'm not a massive professional here, but either for the everyday person or if you want to venture out, I just still feel like it was hard to come up with color combinations that looked amazing. In my opinion, of course. So with that, and then with the mattes, also a little bit more of a drier formula. They're ultra pigmented to an extreme where Even a dot is way too much. It was really hard to kind of work with this in a way where like I took it on a brush, but then I don't know if I took too much or too little, and then I put it on the eye, and it was a huge mess all of the time, and it really wasn't a breeze to work with. So there's that with the mattes. With the metallics, I will say I didn't really find anything like too special about them. I just thought that they were okay. They were a little bit piecey, and I say that a lot too when I describe palettes, and some of you guys get what I mean, but some of you don't, so I'll tell you. Piecey is when it looks like it's, I made up this word by the way, I should put it in the dictionary. It's when there's pieces, like it looks like it's like piece, PC, Piece dash Y. PC. Definition is when eyeshadow looks like it's like all crumbly in a way. So that's what I felt with the metallics of this one. Not all of them, definitely like one or two of them, and then the other like one or two metallics were just like decent, cute, nice to put on. But once I used this palette and I was just like not really getting a good vibe off it, I was like, I'm just not down. But it does have 83 reviews on Sephora's site, and it's pretty much at a 3.7 stars. Next, we have an eyeshadow palette here from Urban Decay. Ironically, this is also on sale. I've noticed that a lot of palettes that I actually don't like happen to always go on sale, which I just think is interesting. Coincidence? I don't think so. So this is the Urban Decay Wild Greens eyeshadow palette. I purchased this from Ulta. They have it it's available on Sephora too. Original price was $44. Now it is $22 on sale. So it has 1,000 reviews and it's pretty much at a 4.5 star. The formula is a vegan formula. You have matte finishes in here and metallic finishes as well. This palette features greens and neutrals plus earthy tones and shimmers, metallics, mattes, all of that. So that's why I picked it up, because I was like, I love the color story. I think I've spoken to you guys about that. I love greens and browns together, earthy tones. I think that they're gorgeous on the eyes. And I feel like it's a pretty popular color combination these days. So I was like obsessed with the color story. So once I received it, I noticed that like most of the looks ended up coming out to be the same way. A lot of the shades in here are ultra light. So yeah, it's like a light green and like a light peachy tone shade, but it doesn't make a difference on the eye as much. And then for me, what was missing from here is more of like a deeper brown, like more of like a chocolatey brown. If it's more earthy, then I would like something deeper to kind of, again, just deepen things up a bit. And then if I want to use that one in a light way, I think I have both options. When you have a lighter brown shade and it's not that buildable, and it almost looks the same as when you applied it the first time, there isn't much like diversity with it, you know, and that was one of my, I guess complaints about that. I also felt like the mattes were very, very thin in consistency. They didn't adhere well to the eye, and it always looked very powdery and almost chalky on, so I wasn't about it. The metallics were very pretty. They weren't the most yummiest metallic-y, like delicious type of metallics at all, but they were nice, you know. If I would keep this just for the metallics, then I probably would use them, but I would say overall as a palette, it really wasn't one that I enjoyed, and whenever I saw it in my collection, I was like, I'm just not down. I typically use one palette for the most part, and very rarely I'll mix palettes, so if I wasn't able to use this on its own, it just really wasn't something that, you know, was for me. And then with this one also, I felt like a lot of tones were very similar on the eyes. You get two greens, but they're so similar. So give me like a deeper green, give me a forest green, something, you know, something to work with. The browns, there are 3 browns, but 2 of them also almost look very identical. You see very minor differences on the eyes. I am actually wearing the Naked Honey palette on my eyes now. It's one of my favorites from Urban Decay, and I just would love for maybe them to kind of keep that formula around, because if it's that with all of their palettes, I just feel like they'll do better, and maybe their products won't necessarily go on sale, because even with the Honey palette, it might have been on sale here and there, but it's actually a palette that I don't see on sale a lot. It's like the least saled product. Since we're on the Urban Decay train, let's hop into this palette. This was such a disappointment to me. I was like in shock. This is the Urban Decay Mini Naked 3 eyeshadow palette. There are, what is it called? 375 reviews at a 4.1 star. The train is passing from this way. So we got construction here, train here. $29 for this little one. It is a vegan formula. It's more of like their mini palettes. It says it includes 6 all new universally flattering rosy eyeshadows. I did a first impression on this one. Again, with this, 2 of the shades look almost identical on the eyes. So I would have loved if that would have been swapped out. The metallics in here were nice. I would say they were the winners of the palette. The last shade, Speed, was the most awkward color I've ever used in my life. It looked gross on. I was so turned off. It was crazy. It really didn't look like anything I would ever want on my eyes ever again. So like as dirty as can be, muddy, the whole 9 yards, that's what it looked like, because it also had little specks of glitter, so it was more like, and it was somewhat noticeable, but it was also like matte and satin, just like, well, I didn't know what was going on. And then also just, well, for me personally, this is a personal take on this. These tones, I love rosy tones, I love cool tones, I wear them often, but this specific color story just looked very not flattering on my personal skin tone. And I love to venture out, check out different palettes, see what looks I can create, but with this one, I was surprised to see that I was not feeling how I looked whatsoever. There was no ifs and buts. So that's just a personal take. The tones of these, not my speed. I love the Couture tone palette from Natasha Denona, the more grays and silvers. These are rosy tones, but in my opinion, as they say, it's rosy cool tones, but I don't think it's done well. I also felt like with the mattes especially, they were very, very chalky and very thin, so you needed to build these up, and if you didn't, if you're my skin tone, I don't think it would really work out, and especially if you're a deeper skin tone, I don't know if it would really even show up. So $29 for this one. I mean, people are liking it because it's at a 4 something star, but there's still a little percentage that don't, and that includes me. Next, we have this palette here by Fenty Beauty. Now, Fenty Beauty is a brand that I feel like does amazing with so many different makeup products. Their lip products are insanely amazing. Their foundations, I love. Their powders, my favorite powder is from Fenty. Lip products, blushes, loose powders, they have it down. However, when it comes to their eyeshadow palettes, complete opposite. I don't know what is up and why it's like that, but it always surprises me and amazes me that it is. So again, a palette that is actually also on sale. So this is the Bomb Pose Mega Mix and Match Eyeshadow Palette by Fenty. There are about 105 reviews and it's at a 3.7 star. Original value $48, but it's on sale for $33.50. It includes 12 shades inspired by Fenty Glow Fussy and Hot Chocolate, which are her glosses. So I like that she, you know, was inspired to create an eyeshadow palette from those popular glosses. I did purchase this and I did do a first impression on it. I will start off by definitely saying 3 or 4 shades even look very similar on the eye. I know that there was so much more versatility that could have been done with this one. So right off the bat, it's like, why? You know? And in that way, I feel like you're less likely to be more, I'm less likely, I'll talk about myself, I'm less likely to be more adventurous with the looks if 4 of the shades pretty much look somewhat the same with hair different, you know? I did like the fact that they put a deep brown in there, always a winning shade that you can do so much with. The quality of that was just okay. It wasn't like the hardest to blend out, but it wasn't the smoothest. It was decent. The metallics, I want to say, kind of sucked. They were not really adhering that well to the eye, so I wasn't the biggest fan of that. And then with the metallics also, if you could see the palette right here, there's 2 pinks, almost identical. There are 2 bronzy tones, almost identical. And then the 2 last shades are actually pretty significantly different, I would say. Also with those, like, why are there so many shades that are pretty much almost the same? I would have loved something that maybe would have been in the same family. There's so many pinks that could be done, let's say, but like significantly different that it looks like it's a different color on the eye. You know, if I wear one pink one day and then the other pink the other day from the palette, it looks like I did the same look. So that was my main complaint about this one, but also like the shadows are not a breeze to work with overall. They really did not show up on the eye, really, no matter what I did. Terrible. And honestly, a lot of the reviews also just state that, and then the blendability sucks. I would rate this a maybe 1 out of 10, maybe, not even. All right, next we have these palettes by Fenty as well. These are her Snap Shadows Mix and Match eyeshadow palettes, the small little ones. So there are a few different color stories to choose from. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different color stories to choose from. And what's cool about the packaging of these is that they're snappable. So you can buy 2, you can kind of snap them together, so you have like a palette of 12 shadows as opposed to just the 1. I think the concept is genius, so I love that. These retail for $28 each. 330 reviews, and it's at a 4 star. I personally would say that I have the same experience with these shadows and with these palettes as I did with the larger palette she released, so I'm not going to necessarily repeat, but literally the same exact thing. I thought that the bigger palette, the Pose palette, what is it even called? The palette I just spoke about, I thought that would be like revolutionary and different because these small ones absolutely sucked, I would say. But no, I would say it's pretty much the same, maybe a dot better, but really not. So I would personally love to see Fenty do much better with palettes, with shadows. I know that they have it in them, considering the fact that really everything else they have in their line is 10 out of absolute 10. Next, we have an eyeshadow quad. That might be a very unpopular opinion. I wanted to love this so much, but it was just not gonna work out. So this right here is from Charlotte Tilbury. I guess one of my main Charlotte Tilbury fails. This is one of her luxury eyeshadow palettes in Pillow Talk. You can understand probably why I didn't want to hate this, because like, I mean, Pillow Talk, Charlotte Tilbury, quad, I mean, winner, but it really wasn't for me. So this quad was $53. There's 730 reviews and it's at a 4-star. So people are loving it, but there are a decent amount who are actually not that obsessed. It says here it's a 4-step eyeshadow quad with buildable, non-creasing formulas and pigmented shades for day to night. The reason why the quad did not work out for me is, firstly, it comes with a satin shade that doesn't necessarily look as satin on the eye. So it almost looks like a matte, and then that compared to like the peachy tone shade, they're not similar, but they don't really have much of a difference on the eye, I personally would say. The brown, the way I do my makeup, I guess. You know, I don't want people to be like, what are you saying? You know, I love this palette. I know, let me know if you love this, but yeah, for me, that's the reason why I wasn't obsessed. For the brown, it does not build up for nothing. So when it says it's buildable, absolutely not. That brown does not build up at all. You barely see anything. And I would consider myself a light skin tone. Maybe if you have a fair skin tone, it'll show up more. Medium to deep skin tones, I really don't think it would. And then the metallic in there, I'm not that obsessed with because it's a very see-through type of shade. I'm not that into that, I'll be honest. I know people are, to kind of look like see-through and wet. This doesn't look necessarily wet, but it's a very see-through shade, so it just doesn't look that flattering on my eyeballs, I would say. So really not a fan of that, and also with that, it doesn't build up. So I really have a hard time using this palette and making it work out for me. Like, if I would close my eyes and you would give me this and you'd be like, hey, guess the brand, in a million years I would never say Charlotte Tilbury. So just to keep you guys posted. Next, we have this palette here by Natasha Denona. Now, I actually think this is limited edition, and I want to say it's going to be, or recently was removed from Sephora. They still sell it on a few other sites, but it's not there yet, but it was a bit ago, so I'm still gonna talk about it today. So I did want to speak about a Natasha Denona palette because you guys know I'm obsessed with her formula. She's unfortunately not gonna be doing my makeup for my wedding, mainly because like there's no way to really contact her, and it's like I don't feel like she'd be the type to do it. Maybe it would be a dream, but like it's okay. I already got someone that I'm really excited about. So the eyeshadow palette I'm referring to today is the Love eyeshadow palette. It's one of her $65 pan palettes. I own most of them. I love most of them as well. This is one I have in my collection that I have a hard time decluttering, but because it's Natasha Denona and I want to collect, you know, all of them like Pokemon. But I will be honest, from all, this is my least favorite. I don't know what it is exactly, but every time I use it, I'm just not satisfied with the looks. There is versatility with this one, so I do appreciate that. I just felt like with this one, it to me did not seem like it was on par with her other palettes when it comes to blendability, mainly, yeah. They are pretty pigmented, but when I say blendability, they swatched well and everything, but they always looked so patchy on the eye, and I was just never really able to make this palette work. I used it a few times when I purchased it, but I'll be honest, I probably have not touched it in a year. And I love Natasha Denona palettes. I'm using them really every time, anytime, for special occasions, events, videos, everything. Like, she's really my number one. But when it comes to this one, I just, also with like the matte, like wetter type of formula, which she does include in her palettes at times. Personally, I'm not a fan of that. I find it really hard to blend out the way I use shadows. And I know in this palette she has a few of those shades that I love, but I could never make it work. The final palette that I wanted to speak to you guys about, the 10th palette, is the Lawless Mini The Little One eyeshadow palette. There are 237 reviews at a 4-star. $25, you get 8 shades in here, a selection of mattes mainly, and I want to say like 1 or 2 like metallic-y shades. It says it's a talc-free, travel-friendly mini eyeshadow palette that achieves all of your favorite looks with 8 classic shades. I purchased this because I love the color story. I love browns, I love burnt shades, blacks. I love those on the eyes, especially if you have brown eyes. I feel like it looks nice since I have brown eyes, you know? So for this one, I felt like it fell really short for me. I love her other baby mini palette, I forgot what it's called, more like the rosier tones. use that a lot. So that's why I purchased this. I'm like, you know what? I want all the little ones. I've tried to make this work so many times. I was just not having it with this. I felt like for the color story, I know a lot of brands have similar ones, but there's a Sephora one that I purchased, a Sephora collection one that I purchased that's pretty much identical to this for a fraction of the cost that works 10 times better. The shadows blend out well, they apply nicely, they last, they look easy on the eyes, like they look good. This one, it was always such a hassle to work with, so with a lot of these, like, blendability was just not there. And every time I got it on the eyes and blended it out, it took 10 times longer than if I would use a different palette. So something to keep in mind, even if I use similar shades. I still have it in my collection because I have a hard time decluttering it. I still want to make it work. But it just, maybe if I use it for like eyeshadow to kind of stamp on the eye instead of just blending. For blending, the mattes suck. And then for the metallic, it just looked okay. It looked very like piecey on the eye and just not smooth. Overall, the looks that I came up with this one, I was never really a big fan. I was just like, okay, like this just okay. Like I thought it would look nicer, smoother on, and I also thought it would be an easier formula to work with. I also feel like throughout the day, like it does kind of fade away where it doesn't look amazing hours later. When with other palettes I do have that. So if you want to get a Lawless palette, I definitely recommend the Mini Baby 1 palette. This has pretty much 247 reviews out of 5-star. So this is a definite win. I had a great experience. I always have great experiences with this one. So if you're gonna get a Lawless palette, a baby one, then I would definitely say this one is the way to go. That's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. I know it's something different that I've never really done, but I actually really enjoyed doing this. So if you are looking to purchase or invest in an eyeshadow palette, this was just my take on certain ones that I personally am not a fan of. I would love to hear your opinions, your thoughts, your takes on all of this. Keep me posted, even if it's different than mine. I love hearing those, especially like what? So yeah, let me know, and I will see you all in my next video.